Ladies and gents, boys and girls, good morning. Thursday, October the 26th, 2023. Hope you're all doing well. Chris Phillips here, your host of the Daily Crow of the Spurs Up Show. In case you missed it, show moved up this morning and tomorrow morning, 9 to 11 a.m. Eastern. As you see, we are not in studio. We are on the road. We are in beautiful Hilton Head Island, South Carolina. Already got a good walk-in this morning, couple cups of coffee, enjoying the scenes, the sights, what have you, and getting after it early here on this Thursday. And again, we'll do the same tomorrow as well. Of course, we are in town for our event with Carolina Cigars on Saturday, our watch party. Gamecocks in Texas A&M will be at the Cigar Lounge, guys. Of course, all the details are on social media. You can see the address, all that good stuff. Yours truly probably going to get there about 11 a.m. or so to get set up and situated and everything. We will operate the A1 Air Quality Consultants post-game call-in show from the Cigar Lounge as well. So again, guys, it's going to be a great time. And as I've told you guys all week long, in a week that it feels like the outlook is bleak, it feels like the odds of South Carolina winning are highly unlikely, I would comfort you with this. The Cigars are going to get smoked either way. We're going to have a great time no matter what the final score is, no matter what the outcome is. We're going to enjoy ourselves. So all my low country Gamecocks, anybody who wants to make the trip down or up or wherever you are to Hilton Head Island, South Carolina, be sure to check it out. Come check us out and hang out and smoke some stogies and watch some college football. Again, guys, there's some great college football on Saturday. I know just in the SEC, we've got the world's largest outdoor cocktail party with Georgia, Florida at 3:30. We've got Kentucky, Tennessee at 7 o'clock on SEC Network. So it's a full day of college football in the SEC especially, and looking forward to hanging out with you guys, conversating like I mentioned. Again, guys, we are in the Airbnb here in Hilton Head. You see me trying to get situated. It's a much different setup. I'm so used to my chair at this point that when I'm not in my chair, it's a very weird feeling, kind of a strange vibe. But either way, we are rocking. We are rolling today. We have got a jam-packed show for you guys. Again, guys, 9 to 11 a.m. Eastern. We'll be live in our second hour. Very excited, guys. We've got my good friend Michael Bratton of That SEC podcast joining the show. We're going to talk all things SEC and, of course, Gamecocks football as well. Really get his thoughts on the season that has been, not just for South Carolina, but many, many teams in the SEC. Of course, we got the Daily Mailbag segment at the end of the show as well. Daily Mailbag will probably be a little bit different today just because we'll have some scattered time. We're going to knock out our topics this morning. We're breaking down, previewing the Gamecocks game against Texas A&M. I'll give you my top storylines, a full game preview, and then we'll get into our prediction as well. After that, we'll probably have about 20 minutes or so to conversate, take some questions, some comments, what have you. Then we'll get into Michael Bratton. Then end of show, we'll continue with the Daily Mailbag. But obviously wanted to get a time in there that worked for Michael Bratton of That SEC podcast. Really excited to chat with Michael Bratton and hear his thoughts on everything Gamecocks, SEC, and everything in between. Again, I see Madison Duncan, Bruce, what's going on? Good morning to each and every single one of you. Also, those in the Big Cock Club Discord, head over to the TDC Questions channel, the TDC Questions channel, to be sure your questions are answered there. Guys, like I mentioned, thank you all so much. Those who have woken up, who have joined us, get your coffee. Let's get after it because, again, Gamecocks and Aggies are set to do battle on Saturday in College Station, South Carolina, looking for their first ever win at Kyle Field. And also, guys, looking to snap a streak on the road against SEC West foes. Get these numbers really quickly. South Carolina has lost their last 5 road trips to SEC West foes by an average of 22.6 points per game. The Gamecocks are also 0-5 against the spread in that time. And South Carolina, of course, plus 14. That is the number for Saturday's game. So, when the Gamecocks have played SEC West competition on the road, they have struggled mightily. And obviously that includes a lot of these games against Texas A&M, guys. You might recall the last time South Carolina went to College Station. This game, for whatever reason, it feels like forever ago, but you might recall that was the game that South Carolina lost. I believe the final score was 44-11. And you looked up, and Carolina had 11 yards of offense in the third quarter. So, Carolina obviously looking for a much better result in College Station, and of course, snapped that streak against Texas A&M last year where you lost 7 consecutive games. Now looking to win their first ever game at Kyle Field. And guys, that's where we start when you talk top storylines for Carolina and A&M. A house of horrors awaits, right? I mean, it's just, you look at the venue. I mean, Kyle Field is as imposing as any in college football, over 100,000 strong. But you wonder what the 12th man is going to be like this weekend, right? Texas A&M, we talk about South Carolina's program. We've talked a lot this week about the state of the program and where they are mentally and just where Gamecock Nation is as a fan base. Well, then you look at Aggie Nation and you look at the 12th man. And I mean, there are real question marks and real callings for the firing of Jimbo Fisher. Like the energy there is real. They want somebody new to step in and be their head football coach. You also look at this football game, guys, an 11 a.m. local time kickoff. And as we've seen before, guys, things can get weird. Things can get weird with these 11 a.m. kickoff times. You just never know, right? Do you have 100,000 screaming Aggies in there? Does the 12th man show up and make their presence known and impact the ball game? Or is it a sleepy noon game? Or for them, a sleepy 11 a.m. game, and South Carolina is able to come in there and ambush Texas A&M and somewhat take them by surprise and jump out early and kind of, I look at both of these teams sort of, and we'll talk about this more later in the show. I look at both of these teams as sort of wounded ducks right now, right? Who's got the knockout punch? Like which one of these ball clubs has got the blow early in the game that knocks the other one out? I think that's going to be key. I think that's going to be pivotal. And again, guys, it has been really, really tough sledding. Early in the series, I think South Carolina was pretty competitive in College Station. There were some classic games, especially early in the Will Muschamp era, but it's been mostly blowouts, right? I mean, the last 2 times you've been there, 44-11, and I believe 38-3 was the 2019 final when South Carolina obviously went 4-8 in that season. So it's been really tough sledding in College Station. Gamecocks will look to snap that streak. Guys, you can't talk about this game, and you certainly can't talk about South Carolina without talking about the injury list. It's an injury list, guys, a mile long. Looks like my freaking Costco receipts. It's just player after player after player after player, especially on the offensive line. I think the offensive line, guys, is to a point where you show up Saturday in College Station, you just look around and say, okay, who can play? Like, do we have 5 that can go? Okay, well, you 5 are starting. Like, unfortunately, that's where you are, and it doesn't bode well for this game. We did get some good news this morning, though. We did get some good news this morning. Our friends Phil Kornblue and the folks at Sports Talk reporting that in their conversation last night with Chuck Reedy, with Wednesday night, I should say, with Chuck Reedy, they were told Xavier Legette was in concussion protocol after leaving the Mizzou game, but practiced Wednesday and is expected to play Saturday at Texas A&M. So that will be a huge boost if Xavier Legette indeed does go. But I mean, guys, again, you go down the list. We know Juice Wells is out. What's the status of Amarian Brown? I mean, you've got at this point like 9 or 10 offensive linemen that are out or questionable or what have you. Defensively, you just lost a defensive lineman, obviously, which wasn't injury related. What's Stone Blanton's status? It's just injury after injury after injury, just a laundry list of injury. So you wonder at this point, guys. We talked about it yesterday, comparing the rosters, each position unit. You just wonder if South Carolina, are they even in the position from a roster standpoint, like a health standpoint, to not even go win, but even compete in this football game. Now, I mentioned, guys, the matchups and the roster and the position unit comparisons, what have you. And J.C. Sherbert, our good friend, mentioned this in his Tuesday segment. a matchup circled in red ink, right? That we've dropped our key matchups for this football game. And like you'd imagine, there's Spencer Rattlers involved, Shane Beamer, all that good stuff. But like many other games this season, basically like every other game, the matchup that's going to determine success or failure for South Carolina, it's the Gamecocks O-line against that A&M defensive front. An A&M defensive front and an A&M defense, a front seven, that is tied for first nationally with 29 sacks on the season. Guys, the Gamecocks on the flip side, offensively, have given up 31 sacks. That is tied for 127th in college football. You then factor in more injuries piling up. I mean, guys, it doesn't bode well. I'm past the point of believing in miracles. I'm past the point of believing in fairy tales. I don't know what's got to give. I don't know what can change for the South Carolina offensive line. Excuse me. I don't know what can change. I really don't. I don't know what South Carolina is going to be able to do realistically, but that's the matchup. If South Carolina is going to make this a close ball game, if the Gamecocks are going to look up in the fourth quarter and it's a one-score game, we're going to be sitting there. The reason will be we'll look back and say, man, the offensive line really stepped up today. The offensive line really rose to the occasion. I guess my question is it even realistic to expect that? Because the bodies you have are the bodies you have. And guys, Texas A&M's front seven, as good as Missouri's was, Texas A&M's is far superior. And we saw what Mizzou did to the Gamecocks. Now, you move to QB1, guys. Spencer Rattler. Unfortunately, Spencer Rattler has picked up a nickname. That is Road Rattler, because Road Rattler and Home Rattler are vastly different players. Spencer Rattler, flat out, guys, has not been good on the road. And I think you got to factor in competition. You've got to factor in the quality of defensive fronts they've played on the road, right? And it's much more, obviously, it's much more difficult to play on the road. You're dealing with crowd noise. You can't make as many checks. You can't do as many things as you can do at home. So it just puts more pressure on every operating piece of your football team, certainly your offense. But the numbers are staggering. I mean, the splits are scary. They are worrisome, right? Especially going into a game like this. I mean, the best news is this is the final road game of the season. But the splits are concerning. The splits are somewhat scary. The splits make you cringe a little bit, make you stop and just kind of wonder. I mean, if you don't get good play at a QB1 this weekend, you simply don't have a chance. So, is it more of the same for Spencer Rattler? Which, again, it starts up front with the big uglies. We all know that. But the quarterback gets way too much of the credit, way too much of the blame. And you could just look at his numbers, I'm sure many do, and say, well, Spencer Rattler's the reason South Carolina isn't winning on the road or having more success, because the numbers are not good. And he's got to be better. He's got to be better. He mentioned after the Missouri game, hey, some of those sacks are on me. I'm running into sacks. I'm losing yardage. And I will say, I don't think he should be excused of all fault, right, when it comes to the offense not doing well. But I don't think it'd be as much a talking point if the play and the stats weren't so vastly different. Like at home, he's been electric. I mean, we're seeing him, you look up in the third quarter, and he's 15 of 15 for 170 and 2 touchdowns. And we just haven't even remotely seen anything like that from him on the road this season. Does Spencer Rattler, does he finally shake off his road woes and lead to South Carolina having better success away from home as well? Now, sticking with the offense, guys, I mentioned Xavier Legette. It does sound like good news that wide receiver 1 will play in this football game. But you wonder, is he limited? Is he 100%? How close to 100% is he? And I go back to this. Do we see more of Nicholas Harbor, guys? At this point in the season, sitting at 2-5, potentially staring 2-6 right in the face, this is going to be a talking point, a storyline every week, guys, because you're playing to win right now, but you're also building for the future. I think that's why it's so beneficial to get a guy like Nicholas Harbor involved, because it's even if you finish this season 5-7, if Nick Harbor, the final 5 games of the season has, 500 yards receiving. Well, you look at that and go, man, like he's going to be electric next year. There's reasons for hope and optimism and building for the future. I mean, also, guys, do we see more Nicholas Harbor? Because it's kind of a necessity at this point. I mean, Xavier Legette got banged up against Mizzou. Even if he's back, is he 100%? Sounds like Amarian Brown's questionable. I would probably say he doesn't go. The other guys, I mean, Eddie Lewis, Omega Blake, what have they really given you? What have they given you that Nicholas Harbor can't give you? And then Luke Doty, I mean, we haven't seen him play in weeks. I mean, you're very limited at the wide receiver position, guys, whether it be because of injury, because of some guys not stepping up. And you see what Nicholas Harbor's done over the last couple of weeks with increased repetition, with increased opportunities. I think he's been very solid. I think he's shown some playmaking ability that, fans have been wanting to see, have been clamoring to see. And when he's gotten the football, when he's gotten his opportunities, guys, he's caught everything thrown his way, right? Hands were his question mark. He's caught everything thrown his way. So I'm just curious to see, do we see the opportunities increase? He's getting a lot of snaps now, too. He's getting a lot of snaps now. So is it this game? Is it Jacksonville State? Is it Vandy? Is it one of those down the stretch? I do think there's going to be a breakout game for Nicholas Harbor, and you hope for South Carolina's sake that it's this weekend. Now, switching sides of the football, guys, defensively, and I think that's where a lot of the question marks, the problems, what have you, lie. Something that's really intriguing, guys, 12. 12 is a key number here. Over Texas A&M's last 2 games, guys, the dynamic duo of Anais Smith and Evan Stewart at the wide receiver position for the Aggies only have 12 combined touches. 12 combined touches for those 2 guys, which is damn near malpractice when you think about just how good, how talented those players are. I think you're going to see Texas A&M make each of them much more of a priority. I think both of those guys will be heavily involved in the Aggies' attack. And so you wonder, what answer does South Carolina have for those 2 on the outside? Because secondary has been a major, major concern, a major issue. Going to be a lot of pressure. And you even go, guys, they got more. I mean, Texas A&M's got elite talent deep in that wide receiver room. Noah Thomas, another guy, 4 touchdowns thus far this season. I don't know who's going to cover him, right? It's going to be a strenuous test for your secondary. But it starts with Anais Smith and Evan Stewart. And unfortunately, our good friend Brad Crawford put up this post yesterday. I want to say tweet, but it's obviously not Twitter anymore. But he put up this post yesterday just listing off all of the guys that have had their career days against South Carolina, right? It's just one after another, after another, after another. And if I had to go with an Aggie that's going to do that, I'd go with Anais Smith. I don't know how Anais Smith doesn't have a touchdown yet. That seems crazy to me. But I think Texas A&M, I'd have to imagine the way they're going to try to beat South Carolina is using those wide receivers, right? Letting Max Johnson work. We'll see how conservative their play calling is, what Bobby Petrino, what he tries to dial up. But I'd have to imagine for the Aggie side of things, they're probably looking at this game as like, okay, this is an opportunity for us to get the offense rolling. This is an opportunity for us to kind of find ourselves offensively. I mean, guys, you look at South Carolina's defense, why wouldn't you think that? So it's going to be a test for Marcellus Dial, O'Donnell Fortune, those guys. They're going to be covering for some fantastic players, Nick Ebenwari, DQ Smith. I don't know what Clayton White and company are going to be dialing up, but, it's going to take a lot for sure to stop the Aggies, just even in the passing game. Speaking of Clayton White, my next topic here, Clayton White calling the shots with his job on life support. And guys, I'm just going to say this. From the things that I've heard, this might be some breaking news. This is all just per sources. So take it for what it's worth, per sources. But where there's smoke, there's typically fire, right? We've been in these situations before. Hey, man, you know that Marcus Satterfield's not going to – this is happening, that's happening, this guy's been demoted, that guy's been demoted, what have you. We've heard some things. Let's just put it that way. We've heard some things when it comes to Clayton White that maybe, just maybe, there's going to be some different voices in the defensive room. Maybe, just maybe, Shane Beamer's put his foot down and said, hey, just so you know, you're on the chopping block or you've already been chopped. I'm just saying, I wonder, do not be surprised if things don't look different defensively this weekend. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. From what we've heard, about different voices, maybe it's more Travian Robertson, maybe it's more Torian Gray. I don't know. But Clayton White, obviously his job to put it on life support, to call it its own life support, is probably being too kind. But per sources out there, people I've talked to, there's a good chance that there's going to be some different voices in that defensive room calling the shots, putting their own, kind of like with the offense last year, guys, where it was like, okay, Freddie Kitchens is putting his 2 cents in, Justin Stepp, this guy, that guy. I think that's exactly what's happening with the defensive side of the football. So does it lead to different results? We'll see. I think South Carolina, you could argue they've got somewhat of a talent issue, certainly a depth issue, but I think we also all agree that this defense has been playing so far below what it's capable, and maybe with some extra, maybe with some different voices, who knows what happens, guys? Who knows? On that note, guys, the defense, again, I go back to, you look at Le'Veon Moss and their running game, and it's sort of another week of pick your poison, guys. I mean, Texas A&M as a football team averages about over 5 yards a carry. They can throw the football. They've got weapons on the outside. Obviously, Max Johnson's a guy at the quarterback position. He's not dynamic. He's nowhere near dynamic as Connor Wegman, but he is a guy that he can make the big play, and he's a facilitator of the football, and he gets it to his playmakers, and that's all they need him to be. You got to force the issue. If you're South Carolina, you've got to force the issue. Make Max Johnson beat you. You cannot let him sit back there and just kind of dink and dunk. Same thing with last week, guys. But what answers will South Carolina have defensively? I mean, that's the question. Special teams, guys. I know we've been clamoring for special teams to make a big play. The special teams finally make that game-changing play. And ironically enough, it was almost a year ago to the date against this very opponent that when we talk about, man, special teams making that game-changing play, there's been no game and no play that has been greater exhibited than last season against Texas A&M when Xavier Legette took the opening kickoff back for a touchdown. Guys, you go back and look at that game, and Texas A&M was abysmal last year. But South Carolina won that game 30-24. The Aggies outgained the Gamecocks in that football game like 398 to 260 something. Like, without that special team score, guys, South Carolina doesn't win that football game. And so it makes this season, guys, when you start to kind of plug in 2 + 2 and do some math, it makes sense why South Carolina's season hasn't quite gone the way we expected, right? Because those plays haven't been there. Those plays simply have not been there. If you don't make that big special teams play, guys, South Carolina loses that football game. How many times has special teams, dare I call it this, bailed the Gamecocks out? This A&M game last year is a perfect example because after that, you basically got outplayed in that football game. You did on the scoreboard, 24-23. It was that 7 to start the game that changed it. And for the Gamecocks to win this football game, guys, I think to even be in this game in the fourth quarter, they're going to have at least one of those plays. Maybe 2. They're going to have those game-changing because, like, what it does for the scoreboard, too, it's the way it shifts momentum, right? It's the way it shifts momentum. That's the big thing. It's the way that it shifts momentum. And changes momentum. And we've seen that before. So, special teams, you need it to make some big plays, change momentum, get Texas A&M on their heels, and get some good things, get some things rolling in your favor. Now, when you look at this football game, guys, I don't think I've seen a Gamecock that's picking South Carolina to win, which is understandable. You're sitting here at 2-5, Texas A&M. They're struggling for sure, but they've got immense amounts of talent. You're in College Station, a place you never won. Let's just say hypothetically, and I'm going to get to my prediction, obviously, later in the show. Let's just say hypothetically you lose the football game. Here's the issue that fans are having. Losing's one thing, but how you lose matters. And I know many of us out there, I know many folks don't like the chatter around Shane Beamer. There's comparisons about Beamer to the Muschamp era, which is just absolutely sickening and almost hard to believe that we're at that point. But, that there's mud being slung at Shane Beamer, and there's people saying that he shouldn't be the head coach, that the future is bleak with him leading the way. Losing by 30 this weekend's not going to help that, right? When people say that it's feeling very Muschampish, admittedly, last weekend felt very – you could have told me Will Muschamp was the coach of that team, I'd have believed you. I mean, that game was a Will Muschamp type result to a T, where you go on the road, you look unprepared, you get blown out of the water to open the game, and you just get blown out, and it's ugly across the board. Like, losing's one thing, right? You're a 2-touchdown underdog in this football game. Losing's one thing, but it's a lot different to go out there and lose 37-30 and cover and have a valiant effort than to go out there and lose 45-7. It's obviously a much, much different type of vibe. Can Shane Beamer at least keep this game competitive? Can he and his coaching staff, can they rally the troops, at least keep this thing competitive? Because while Texas A&M is a talented football team, hey, they're wildly inconsistent, guys. They are as dysfunctional as any. And if you're looking for any slight reasons for hope, for optimism, it's that Texas A&M is dysfunctional, guys. We've seen it. They don't know how to utilize the talent they have. They are the epitome of doing less with more. They truly are. They had that $30 million recruiting class, and the way that, they finished top. You go look at the recruiting rankings, guys. I mean, they have the recruiting profile of an Alabama, a Georgia, the big-time programs. Like, the way they've recruited, they should be winning games like that. That's why Jimbo Fisher is on the chopping block. That's why winning 9 games there isn't particularly good enough. But in this ballgame, how you lose matters, guys. And it's just one of those things, like, for Shane Beamer to keep Gamecock Nation, to stay in the good graces, like, you at least need to show fight and heart and competitiveness. And we're not talking moral victories, but like playing the game the right way, not looking so unprepared on the road, getting blown out of the water to start a game. That's got to be corrected Saturday in College Station, because those type of results continue, guys. And people are going to say, he's just Will Muschamp 2.0. That's all he is. He's Will Muschamp with a better culture. That's what people are going to start to say about Shane Beamer. And finally, guys, on sort of that note, this feels like, and if you feel like this is too strong of a description, my apologies, but this is how I see it. This feels like two programs who are teetering on implosion when you look at South Carolina and Texas A&M. On the Gamecock side, Gamecock Nation's fed up, right? Fed up, checked out, donezo, season's a wash. Let's just beat Clemson. And the chatter around Shane Beamer, is he Will Muschamp 2.0? It's starting. Then the Texas A&M side, it goes without saying, guys, they want Jimbo fired, right? This game right here, if A&M loses to South Carolina, this is the knockout punch. He's gone. Buyout, be damned. You just wonder, like, I wish we could be inside the locker rooms. Because what's the psyche of both programs? What's the psyche of both teams? Who in this football game shows up more inspired, more excited to play? That's a big factor in this game. Because at 2-5, I mean, yes, guys, South Carolina has bowl eligibility still on the line, but it feels like all of the goals and the hopes and the dreams of this season are gone. And then for Texas A&M, I mean, sitting at, 4-3, their fan base is practically already checked out as well. So, like, you just wonder which team is still excited to play in their 2023 season, which team is still fired up and inspired and motivated and playing like they were early in the season with that type of energy and hype, and which one has mailed it in. Which one has checked out? Which one has let the disarray from inside and even the outside as well eat at them and define what the rest of the season will be? Because, guys, specifically on the South Carolina side, you got this Xavier McLeod thing happening. His parents going on social media. He don't like losing. right? You have this cancerous attitude of a player. Then parents going out there saying that the defensive coaching sucks. And then you got a coach. Yes, I'm talking about Travian Robertson. You got a coach on social media subtweeting a player or sub-posting, whatever it's called now. Like, this 2023 season has officially hit the fan. Like, this 2023 season is officially a shit show. Do we see that reflected on the field Saturday? Is this a group that's checked out? Is this a group that's washed? Is this a group that's got half their ball club sitting there looking at the NFL draft or the next move or the transfer portal and they don't really give a damn anymore? Or does South Carolina have a few more punches left in them? Does this team still have some fight, still have some resiliency, or does it look like a football team? And do we start to find out that these interior issues are much greater than we want to believe? Going to learn a lot about this Gamecocks football team and Shane Beamer's program on Saturday in College Station. Guys, that being said, let's go ahead and jump into our first break of the day. On the other side, I'll lock in my prediction for South Carolina, Texas A&M. We got a jam-packed Thursday. Appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll be right back here on the Daily Crow. The Daily Crow is brought to you by our friends at Carolina Cigars. Carolina Cigars has been in operation since 2008, recently taken over by the Peterson family in 2020. Whether you're new to the cigar scene or whether you've been enjoying cigars your entire life, Carolina Cigars has the expertise and knowledge to make your visit to their shop enjoyable. Stop by for a fine cigar and experience their classic cigar lounge where people come together, share conversations, and become friends. So if you're into cigars and you're on Hilton Head Island, you really do need to go by and see them. They offer same-day shipping nationwide, free delivery island-wide for weddings and all special occasions. They're also proud to offer premium cigars at 9 outside humidor locations around Hilton Head Island, and they have special events throughout the year as well. They want to talk to you. They want to engage. They want to share with you their cigar selection they're very proud of and their beautiful cigar lounge. When you're in the Low Country, there's only one place for cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, and there's only one place I get my cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, Hilton Head Island's premier cigar merchant. Come and share your passion. It's all here at Carolina Cigars. Give them a follow on Instagram at Carolina_cigars, or give them a call today at 843-681-8600. That's 843-681-8600. Smoke them if you got them, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya. The Daily Crow is also brought to you by our friends over at A1 Air Quality Consultants. Headaches, coughing, running nose while in the office or just in your home, call A1 Air Quality Consultants to have your air checked today. From Columbia to Asheville, Anderson to Charlotte, they are your breath of fresh air for all of your air quality needs. Be sure to give them a call or shoot them a text today at 864-619-2092. That's 864-619-2092. You can also contact them via email at a1airqualityconsultants@gmail.com. Be sure to check them out. We thank A1 Air Quality Consultants for their love and support of the Spurs Up Show, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya.
Watch your Dougie, ho.
Okay, ladies and gents, boys and girls, we are back here on this Thursday, October the 26th. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. Like I mentioned, hey, thank y'all so much for those who have woken up and who have joined us here on this Thursday. As you can see, we are not in studio. We are in beautiful Hilton Head Island, South Carolina. Guys, this is one of my favorite places on planet Earth. Like, I'm talking top 2 or 3, and it ain't number 3. We'll put it that way. So, love coming to Hilton Head. Love hanging out with the Carolina Cigar guys. The watch party this weekend, Saturday, we'll be watching Gamecocks and Aggies. Gamecocks and Aggies at the Cigar Lounge, guys. All the details are on social media, pinned to the top of our social media pages. All my Low Country Gamecocks. And again, guys, like I've mentioned so many times, I know that a bad record kills people's enthusiasm as much as we don't want to admit it, right? As much as we don't want to admit it. People are much, if South Carolina right now was 7-0 versus 2-5, I think folks would obviously be itching to go to a live event. We probably have 5 times the amount of people in this live show right now. But I will say, you're a Low Country Gamecock, you're in the local area, no matter where you are, hey, them stogies will get smoked either way. We're going to have one hell of a time. We're going to watch a ton of football. It's going to be a blast. Great camaraderie, great conversation. Come hang out with us at Carolina Cigars. Really looking forward to it. On that note, Pete McCormick says this in the chat. I miss seeing you with a cigar last year, saying it's good to be good. That train has completely been derailed. Yeah, I miss it too, man. Pete, I miss it too. Maybe we'll get, listen, I'm to the point, guys. I'm not above smoking the pack for Jacksonville State or Vandy. I'm not above that. At this point, man, smoke them if you got them. It's really smoke them when you can, right? Smoke them when you can. Celebrate the victories, big and small. I don't give a damn. I'm not waiting until Kentucky or Clemson. Hey, the next time the Gamecocks get a W, you're going to see me with a victory cigar. That's all I know. Guys, on that note, it's prediction time. Gamecocks and Aggies, South Carolina, for the second consecutive year against Texas A&M. Looking to do something they've never done. Last year, it was simply beat the 12th man. This year, it's win in College Station at Kyle Field in front of the 12th man. And as you guys saw last week, I still have a sliver of hope, a sliver of optimism, a sliver of belief that, you know what? We've seen this before, that South Carolina, when they're backed into a corner and everybody thinks the season's over, it's a wash, right? After Florida last year, 38-6, we all thought the season was over. There's still this small part of me that wants to believe that, similar to the Tennessee and the Clemson games, that the Gamecocks will rise to the occasion, rise from the ashes, and do the unthinkable, or at least what feels like the unthinkable. And I approached last weekend's game with that energy, with that emotion, and made that pick and picked the Gamecocks to beat Missouri at Faurot Field. And looking back, how silly was that? That was a silly, stupid pick. That was a silly pick, guys. No other way. There's no other way to slice it. I think we've got to stop talking about, I'm speaking to myself too, but I think we've got to stop talking about the Tennessee and the Clemson games and talking about, man, you know, when South Carolina's dead, that's when they rise. Like almost like Carolina being dead is a sign of positive things to come. Tennessee and Clemson last year, guys, they were great. We're never going to forget them. Wouldn't trade them for anything. But those games are like in their own category of just results in a sporting event. Like I've never really seen anything like that. A team be so porous and then be so great just 7 days later. But what you have to factor in, guys, is this. This is a completely different cast of characters than the team that did that last year. Like, when you look at the roster, guys, it's completely different. So I think to continue, to say that after every South Carolina beatdown, well, man, like you saw what we did last year after the Florida game. Like at some point, it's like that was the anomaly. That was the exception. It's not the rule. Carolina getting their brains beat in isn't a sign that, it's darkest before the dawn and winning's on the horizon. No, it's a sign this football team stinks. And this football team, guys, this football team stinks. There's just no other way around it. This team is just not good. This team does not have good players. They got a few, but they don't have nearly enough. This team is bad at so many things. Running the football, protecting their quarterback, stopping the run consistently, stopping the pass at all. Special teams has been off. Questionable coaching decisions. I mean, the list, injuries, the list goes on and on and on and on. The only thing that this football team has to hang their hat on is Spencer Rattler. And on the road, he's no good. On the road, he's terrible. And the offensive line can't protect him worth a lick on the road either. I was fooled last week, guys. I was fooled last week going into Columbia, Missouri. I was fooled into thinking, you know what? South Carolina, they're going to rise to the occasion. Streaks are meant to be broken, right? Missouri's won 4 in a row. Here comes the Gamecocks to play spoiler. And what I forgot to take into account was that this is a bad football team. This is just a bad football team, guys. There's no way around it. This team getting to 6 wins will low-key be a miracle because of what this team has, because of what this team is fielding. It's a bad football team across the board. Now, Texas A&M's no world beater. Okay? Texas A&M is not Bama. They're not Georgia, as bad as they want to be. They're not. Okay? They've got their own dysfunction with Jimbo Fisher, Bobby Petrino, DJ Durkin, Steve Adazio, that entire coaching staff, a star-studded lineup of coaches. But they've got their own dysfunction. They got their own problems. We've seen it time and time again. And obviously, Connor Wegman going down early in the season. Max Johnson now with the helm. But there's one thing that Texas A&M, guys, there's one thing they don't lack. That's talent. They don't lack talent, man, across the board. They've got talent everywhere. Literally everywhere. What are the psyche of these two teams? What is the psyche of each of these individual ball clubs? On the South Carolina, I mean, guys, South Carolina season has officially gone off of the freaking rails. It has. When you got a guy like Xavier McLeod, a 4-star signee, who's quitting in the middle of the season because, he's not playing enough? He was asked to travel and he didn't want to. So he got booted from the team. Then on top of that, you've got a coach going on social media, putting out a cryptic post that is an obvious shot at the kid. Dude, things are in disarray. We talk about Shane Beamer's culture and everything he's done, and he's done a great job fixing the culture, guys. But that culture, it's going to be put to the test the final month of the season. Because the more the losses pile up in this day and age, in this instant gratification, transfer portal, NIL, you just wonder, are guys going to have a foot out the door? Are guys going to be checked out? Are they already checked out? Are they done? Does a guy like Spencer Rattler consider his future? Do some others do the same? I mean, you don't want to believe it, but guys, we're just in this world where you cannot rule that out. as we've said all week, you look at this game specifically, the matchup you circle in red is South Carolina's offensive line against the Aggie defensive front, the front seven. And the Aggies, they're fantastic on the defensive line. They're fantastic at linebacker. And they're pretty damn good in the secondary as well. Solid in all three phases, all three levels, I should say. Texas A&M tied for first nationally in sacks with 29. Gamecocks rank 127th in sacks allowed with 31. Doesn't bode well. And I don't think this is the week that South Carolina's offensive line is all of a sudden going to figure it out. When you've got injury on injury on. Like, as I've mentioned many times, you're in a position right now where you just got to show up Saturday and look around and say, okay, who can play? Who's healthy enough to go? Like, when you're having to get tight ends in to play tackle in practice, you know you got issues. You got problems. We don't even know what the health is of the offensive line, or the offensive front. Who in the world's going to play? We have no idea. Even if you were healthy, guys, you'd probably be starting 2 true freshmen on the road at Kyle Field. I don't care if it's an 11 a.m. kickoff or not. Doesn't bode well. Spencer Rattler has been a different quarterback on the road. Doesn't bode well. Xavier Legette coming back from a concussion. Is he 100%? We shall see. You certainly need him. Can you generate any semblance of balance in the running game with that Texas A&M defensive front? It feels unlikely. So it feels like another game in which Spencer Rattler, it's all going to be on him. How does Dabble Loggins scheme around that? Then defensively, you're in complete disarray. And maybe, just maybe, this disarray, right? Pressure makes diamonds. It also makes rubble. So which way does it go? Rumors starting to circulate. This is kind of a Marcus Satterfield situation of last year where, hey, Clayton White knows he's getting the boot. Expect to see different calls from guys like Torian Gray and Travian Robertson, and there's going to be some different voices in the defensive room. That could be a great thing. That could lead to different results. That also could be the beginning of the end. That also could lead to pure implosion. That also could lead to, but to be fair, it can't get any worse, right? And then special teams. Kai Kroger has been a shell of himself. Mitch Jeter's done his thing, but Kai Kroger's been a shell of himself. And you just haven't gotten those game-changing turnovers, and you haven't gotten those game-changing special teams plays. Guys, I somewhat drank the Kool-Aid last week. I did. I wanted to believe. I don't know if it was my Garnet and Black blood or what it is, and I'm someone that I pride myself on staying grounded and keeping things realistic, and I failed you. So I apologize for that, because I picked with my heart, not my head, and that was a foolish thing to do. That was a fool's errand I committed, and I will not be making that mistake again. Because you can keep waiting. You can keep sitting and waiting for the miracle to happen. That's what Tennessee and Clemson were last year, the miracle. You can wait for the miracle all you want. But hope isn't a strategy. Hoping that South Carolina is going to rise from the ashes and rise from the dead, and it's not a strategy, guys. It's not a strategy. And that's all South Carolina has in this game to hang their hat on is, well, we rose from the dead last year. Could we do it again? Not a strategy for success. And certainly not a strategy for success against a team like Texas A&M that's loaded with talent across the board. So, as Shane Beamer put it after the Missouri game, I think it's another long day at the office. I think Texas A&M is able to impose their will on both lines of scrimmage. I think South Carolina will struggle mightily on both lines of scrimmage. Guys, what should the over-under be for Texas A&M for sacks? 5.5? 6.5? You gave up 6 sacks to Missouri. This is a better defensive front. I'm going to call my shot right now. Texas A&M registers 7 sacks. Spencer Rattler spends the day running for his life. The stat line reflects that. I could see a few turnovers coming from QB1. I don't think South Carolina is ever going to be able to get anything going on the ground. You're shorthanded at receiver. You're shorthanded at offensive line. I think you sputter all day offensively. I think South Carolina's team total should be, in my opinion, over under 13.5. I'd be surprised if you scored more than that, if you scored more than 2 touchdowns. On the offensive side, Texas A&M isn't quite lethal offensively, but I think they'll chip away. And as we've seen in the past, guys, as we've seen all year, this Gamecocks defense, it's a great defense for you to have a career day against. And I don't know if it's going to be Aniyah Smith, Evan Stewart, Max Johnson, Le'Veon Moss. Somebody for Texas A&M is probably going to have a breakout game. And with that being said, I do think it's another woeful Saturday for Gamecock Nation. I think it is a game in which, similar to Mizzou, I think Texas A&M jumps out early. I think South Carolina struggles the entirety of the day, and A&M rolls. I love the Aggies, by the way, -14. Love the Aggies, -14. The only hope South Carolina has in this football game is Texas A&M's own incompetence, because South Carolina doesn't have the roster good enough to beat the Aggies. The only thing that makes this game close is Texas A&M's incompetence. And while I think Jimbo Fisher, it's been malpractice in College Station, the results he's put on the field with the talent they have on that roster, I don't even think he can mess this up. I don't think there's enough dysfunction to mess this up for Texas A&M. I think they roll the Gamecocks in College Station. Lock me in. Give me Aggies 37, South Carolina 13. In a game that which, again, guys, I think it is a struggle from the start. I think the Gamecocks are blown off the football on both lines of scrimmage. Texas A&M will impose their will. And I wonder, does the will of South Carolina get broken in this football game? Do we see it start to fade? Do we see guys start to quit? Do we see guys start to mail it in? It's human nature. Hell, Xavier McLeod just quit midway through the year. Don't tell me it can't happen. Hope's not a strategy, guys. Hope's not a strategy. You have to be realistic with yourself. You have to look at what South Carolina has on their roster. They simply don't have the horses to compete in this one. They just don't. They just do not. Flat out, point blank, they don't have the horses. They don't have the talent. They don't have the ball players, and that's an indictment on Shane Beamer. And it's his job to get it rolling again, but that's an indictment on Shane Beamer. It makes my blood boil thinking about it. The failures in the portal, the making this fan base believe going out and getting FCS linemen and this slapdick from D2 and this slapdick from this FCS school is good enough to go win a game in College Station. Bullshit. And you're going to see it in full exhibit on the field on Saturday. Guys, that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the break. On the other side, we'll keep the conversation rolling. We'll take some of your questions. And my good friend, Michael Bratton of That SEC Podcast, he joins the show at 10:15. All that and more on the other side. You're tuned in to The Daily Crow. The Daily Crow is brought to you by our friends at Carolina Cigars. Carolina Cigars has been in operation since 2008, recently taken over by the Peterson family in 2020. Whether you're new to the cigar scene or whether you've been enjoying cigars your entire life, Carolina Cigars has the expertise and knowledge to make your visit to their shop enjoyable. Stop by for a fine cigar and experience their classic cigar lounge where people come together, share conversations, and become friends. So if you're into cigars and you're on Hilton Head Island, you really do need to go by and see them. They offer same-day shipping nationwide, free delivery island-wide for weddings and all special occasions. They're also proud to offer premium cigars at 9 outside humidor locations around Hilton Head Island, and they have special events throughout the year as well. They want to talk to you. They want to engage. They want to share with you their cigar selection they're very proud of and their beautiful cigar lounge. When you're in the Low Country, there's only one place for cigars. That's Carolina Cigars. And there's only one place I get my cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, Hilton Head Island's premier cigar merchant. Come and share your passion. It's all here at Carolina Cigars. Give them a follow on Instagram at Carolina_cigars, or give them a call today at 843-681-8600. That's 843-681-8600. Smoke them if you got them, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya. The Daily Crow is also brought to you by our friends over at A1 Air Quality Consultants. Headaches, coughing, running nose while in the office or just in your home, call A1 Air Quality Consultants to have your air checked today. From Columbia to Asheville, Anderson to Charlotte, they are your breath of fresh air for all of your air quality needs. Be sure to give them a call or shoot them a text today at 864-619-2092. That's 864-619-2092. You can also contact them via email at a1airqualityconsultants@gmail.com. Be sure to check them out. We thank A1 Air Quality Consultants for their love and support of the Spurs Up Show, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya.
Muscle Dougie Ho.
Ladies and gents, boys and girls, we are back here on this Thursday, October the 26th, 2023. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. Our good friend, Michael Bratton of That SEC Podcast, will join the show at 10:15, talking all things Gamecocks, SEC, and everything in between. Guys, again, thank you all so much. Those of you who have woken up this morning joining us. Guys, I will be going on Inside the Gamecocks later this morning at 11:30 a.m. Eastern to talk all things South Carolina, A&M, break everything down. Guys, also, we got a jam-packed show tomorrow. Lots of guests on tomorrow's show. We'll be live 9 to 11 yet again, which, hey, I need you guys tomorrow to wake up and bring the heat, because It's our Friday mailbag episode on tomorrow's show. We'll be taking your questions, your comments, and your voicemails for the first hour. I'd say 45 minutes because we do have back-to-back-to-back guests on the show tomorrow. At 9:45, we're going to have Mark Ryan of the Fan Upstate. At 10:15, we're going to have Jake Crane of Crane and Company. And finally, after that, we're going to get some bonus time on the show tomorrow. We'll go past 11. We'll have my good friend David Nuno of Texags to break down the game on Saturday and talk Texas A&M football, give his insight, everything the Texas A&M perspective. So really excited for that, guys. Going to be a lot of fun. Just going through some of your questions here, guys. We'll kill some time before we get Michael Bratton on. Justin Smith says, the way this joker says Carolina trips me out. Carolina. Justin Smith, I appreciate you tuning in. Great stuff. I don't know. I just say it how I say it, man. I say it like a real South Carolinian. How about that? Let's see. We had a great week of practice. Yeah, for sure. Dude Raw, the Aggies are about to have forceful, unwanted relations with USC Spirit Animal. Hopefully, we at least fight back. No doubt. To the TDC Questions channel we go. To the TDC Questions channel we go. Yeah, so Austin Gregory asking about the post, and I don't want to make more of it than needed, but to me, it's just like you are a coach, okay? And I love Travion Robertson, friend of the show. He went on after the Xavier McLeod news and said this on X: "Don't allow what you see right now make you miss what you don't see." And this was like immediately following the Xavier McLeod news. And I'm just like, you know what? Just because you can doesn't mean you should. You know what I mean? Like what did you just accomplish in doing that? What did you just accomplish in doing that? I mean, I don't know, man. It just, it's just not necessary, and South Carolina doesn't need that type of stuff. Doesn't need that type of stuff. My good friend Dalton, by the way, in the Discord asked, what's a successful season this year for the men's basketball team? We'll talk about this much more in great detail, guys, next week. I think next week is when we'll lock in, or we'll do our basketball season preview, if you will. I know the Gamecocks play an exhibition, I think, on November 1st. I think they do that on, Tuesday or Wednesday of next week. But the season really begins 5 days later when you take on what is it? I forget who exactly, but you start the season in a real game. So probably next week, guys, middle of next week, maybe Tuesday, something like that. We will have our basketball season preview, men's and women's. Yes, we'll touch on both. It'll probably just be one big show, honestly. It'll probably just be one big show. Maybe we'll split it up, actually. Maybe we'll split it up. But we will talk basketball. We will preview basketball, and I look forward to doing that. But I would say, just off the top of my head, an NIT appearance would be a massive step forward. Austin Gregory says this in the Discord: to me, the goal for the men's basketball team this season should be to not finish last in the SEC. As bad as that sounds, I truly believe that should be the goal. I think getting as close, Austin, to 500 in the SEC as possible would be a goal. James says a winning record. A winning record would be a fantastic year. I certainly don't see the Gamecocks making the NCAA tournament. I don't see that at all. I think I just don't see it. I don't think they've got the team for it. Would love to see them make a run, though, obviously. But I think if you can get to the NIT, if you can even be in the NIT conversation late in the season, that is, in my opinion, a major step. I mean, guys, you got to factor in how bad this team was last year. That's a major step forward if you're able to sniff the NIT. Really, truly. Let's go back in the chat. Look at some of your questions here. Like I said, guys, we got Michael Bratton, that SEC podcast, coming up at 10:15. Bill said, I'm not too optimistic about this week. We went to A&M a few years ago, a great venue, but the game was a disaster after we lost one of our best defenders to targeting. Yeah, hasn't been a whole lot of fun times in College Station. So Bruce, going to need some lucky breaks Saturday. Turnovers, fake punt, onside kick, something like that. We might have a shot. Isn't it funny how different the outlook on this game is right now compared to like the preseason? Like, you know what I mean? Like, isn't that interesting? I mean, Travie, A&M lines on both fronts will wear us out, unfortunately. I hope I'm so wrong. Let's see. Joe Anders, it doesn't matter who calls the plays. He's got to make plays and the ball's in the air. That's a good point. Heath, our D-line is undoubtedly the least talented room in the SEC. Justin says, at A&M, man, super tough place to play. Crowd will be in it. Let's face it, as much as our backs is against the wall, so is theirs for their coaching staff. For sure. I mean, dude, if Texas A&M loses this game, Jimbo's gone. He is gone, dude. He's gone. My guy Twisted Rooster in the chat. What's up, man? He says, not getting turnovers and bad special teams plays have exposed our defense even more. Giving up 34 points a game over the past 2 years is bad defense. You're right. I mean, you're absolutely right, man. He continues, I watched the guy break down the game we played against Florida, and it was eye-opening. The basic things this defense doesn't do. We really can't do the simple things well. MM007, the hardest working man in South Carolina media with a fierce beard. Mad respect. Thank you, my friend. I do what I can with the beard. All natural, believe it or not. This is not just for men made, as so many people out there like to think. I've thought about how funny it'd be, though, to have Just for Men as a sponsor of the show, just to throw people off. Let's see. Twisted Rooster says this. Would y'all agree? If South Carolina loses this week, I personally wouldn't blame Rattler for shutting it down and starting the process of getting ready for the NFL Combine. Twisted Rooster, I don't think he does that. I just don't. To me, Rattler has shown great leadership. He really has. He really has. In his 2 years at South Carolina. Like, when things have gone south, when things, excuse me, when all hope has seemed to be lost, I think Rattler has shown great resiliency and just been a leader and a steady hand. And I'm sure that's something that he knew when he came to South Carolina. Okay, scouts want to see this. They want to see you be a leader of your football team. I think he's done a great job in that regard. He has been the leader that South Carolina has needed, absolutely. Let's see. Gilmer says 9 sacks for Texas A&M. 9 sacks. James Porter, is Juice shutting it down at this point to protect himself? What do y'all think? You think Juice is shutting it down? Maybe. John Hebward on the basketball side of things. Hot take, maybe the Gamecock offense will look better since it's not G.G. Jackson-centric. Maybe. Guys, we're going to jump into a quick break to set the scene for our conversation with our good friend Michael Bratton of That SEC Podcast as we talk Gamecocks, SEC, and much more here on this Thursday. Guys, all that and more on the other side. You're tuned in to The Daily Crow. The Daily Crow is brought to you by our friends at Carolina Cigars. Carolina Cigars has been in operation since 2008, recently taken over by the Peterson family in 2020. Whether you're new to the cigar scene or whether you've been enjoying cigars your entire life, Carolina Cigars has the expertise and knowledge to make your visit to their shop enjoyable. Stop by for a fine cigar and experience their classic cigar lounge where people come together, share conversations, and become friends. So if you're into cigars and you're on Hilton Head Island, you really do need to go by and see them. They offer same-day shipping nationwide, free delivery island-wide for weddings and all special occasions. They're also proud to offer premium cigars at 9 outside humidor locations around Hilton Head Island, and they have special events throughout the year as well. They want to talk to you. They want to engage. They want to share with you their cigar selection they're very proud of and their beautiful cigar lounge. When you're in the Low Country, there's only one place for cigars, That's Carolina Cigars, and there's only one place I get my cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, Hilton Head Island's premier cigar merchant. Come and share your passion. It's all here at Carolina Cigars. Give them a follow on Instagram at Carolina_cigars, or give them a call today at 843-681-8600. That's 843-681-8600. Smoke them if you got them, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya. The Daily Crow is also brought to you by our friends over at A1 Air Quality Consultants. Headaches, coughing, running nose while in the office or just in your home, call A1 Air Quality Consultants to have your air checked today. From Columbia to Asheville, Anderson to Charlotte, they are your breath of fresh air for all of your air quality needs. Be sure to give them a call or shoot them a text today at 864-619-2092. That's 864-619-2092. You can also contact them via email at a1airqualityconsultants@gmail.com. Be sure to check them out. We thank A1 Air Quality Consultants for their love and support of the Spurs Up Show, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya.
Michael Dougie, ho.
Ladies and gents, boys and girls, we are back here on this Thursday, October the 26th, 2023. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. Our good friend Michael Bratton set to join us here in just a minute or so as we await his arrival. Looking forward to conversating with him. Apparently, I guess Tennessee fans are, let's see. The latest from Football Scoop is saying, sources told Football Scoop this week, the Wolverines had, and this is the Michigan thing in case you missed it, right? This Connor whatever, like scouting everybody and this whole scandal going on, that the Wolverines had scouted SEC foes, including Georgia and Tennessee, as potential college football playoff adversaries. Moreover, a source with direct knowledge indicated to Football Scoop that Michigan may have attempted to assist the opposition of a potential college football playoff opponent in an effort to disrupt that team's potential path to the playoff. So Tennessee fans this morning on social media are they're convinced that South Carolina had some inside knowledge, and that's why the Gamecocks beat Tennessee the way they did. So whatever. Whatever. Oh well. Doesn't change that butt whooping. So it does not change that butt whooping. Anyways, guys, we await Michael Bratton, that SEC podcast. He'll join us in just a moment. Let's see. Our guy Dave Gabrick in the Big Cock Club Discord said, always claiming to be the best fan base. Time to prove it with 4 home games after an A&M loss. That's a good point by Dave. I will tell you this, though. I don't worry about the crowds to Kentucky and Clemson. Clemson will be a sellout no matter what. Kentucky, the final SEC game, especially if that game is at night, I think you're going to see a great crowd for that one. I think Jacksonville State and Vandy are going to be light crowds, especially JSU. JSU at noon, I think it's going to be a very light crowd, especially if you're coming off a blowout loss in College Station. Yeah, I think you're going to see a lighter crowd. So Rebecca's in the chat. What's up, Rebecca? Terminator says, give me an upset, please. I hear you, man. Listen, I hear you. Let's get the upset. Would be great to see. We'll see if we can get SEC Mike. I just saw him popping in the back. We'll see if we can get SEC Mike to get his camera rocking. Get his video rolling. As we await his arrival. Again, guys, appreciate you all tuning in. Really good stuff as we await kickoff Saturday, Gamecocks and Aggies in College Station. Let's see. I'm sure he's just getting situated right now. Our guy, SEC Mike, getting situated. Guys, one more reminder, by the way, this Saturday, watch party in Hilton Head Island, South Carolina. At Carolina Cigars. We'll be at the Cigar Lounge, hanging out, watching Gamecocks and Aggies. And like I mentioned, guys, win or lose, those cigars smoke just the same way. Hey, for the Low Country Gamecocks, if you're in Hilton Head, I'm actually going to swing by there today, go hang out with the boys and go smoke a stogie or two. And it's going to be a good time. So if you are in the area, you want to come hang out, smoke a cigar, talk some ball, whatever, we will be there. I'll be there today, later. But Saturday for sure. Going to be getting there around 11 a.m. or so, hanging out with those guys. And we'll be doing the post-game call-in show from Carolina Cigars as well. Okay, it looks like he is ready in the back end. Looks like he is ready. Good to go. Okay, we're going to get him in here, guys. Our good friend. It's been a while since we had him, I think just before the season, but excited to talk all things Gamecocks and, of course, the entire SEC with our good friend Michael Bratton of that SEC podcast. He joins the show. SEC Mike, what's going on, man? Great to have you once again.
Hey, what's up, man? I don't know what I just remember the last time I came on too. I don't know the service you use. It doesn't work with my camera. It says not supported.
Really? The Melon platform. Melon giveth and taketh for sure. It does.
Fire him. I'd fire him.
Yeah.
So this is my laptop camera. I apologize.
No, you're good. You're good. We are at that point in the season where I think it's time to do some firing for sure. It's no doubt. Mike, we'll start with this. How convinced are you that South Carolina's win over Tennessee last year was aided by Michigan spies or Michigan intel, Shane Beamer and company?
Yeah, but no, I don't know where's that coming from. I
was sent this morning by a Tennessee fan, actually. So this is from Football Scoop. It says sources told Football Scoop this week that the Wolverines had scouted.
Who wrote the article? Tell me, not the outlet, the actual guy. Because if it's who I think it is, it's completely bogus.
Yeah,
is his name John?
Let's see. I'd have to pull it up here. I'm not exactly sure. Anyways, there's an article.
There's always an excuse. Why we
Right.
lost it? You got your ass kicked. That's what happened. There's no. I don't care if they're sign stealing or what. Tennessee runs an offense that goes so damn fast. You literally cannot relay. Okay, what are they doing? Let's get it to the sideline. Let's get it to the players. That's not possible. Now, maybe a little bit different on the defense, but I thought there was a locker room fight. I thought it was NIL. I thought it was raining. I thought this. I thought that. There's always an excuse. No, you got your ass kicked. I don't. And why would you, are you doing this huge elaborate sign stealing? And then, oh yeah, by the way, you're calling and letting everybody know, hey, we're doing all this craziness. Let's get you involved in it. So now South Carolina's culpable. Like what in the hell are we talking about? We're just making excuses.
To your point, John Bryce wrote the article on Football Scoop,
and I had no idea. Literally, I had no idea. But he's a Tennessee guy, and so am I. So I'm not necessarily saying like to hell with that guy because I know he does good work. But I knew as soon as you said Football Scoop, I knew he wrote it, and I just disregarded all that completely.
So this is the excerpt, though, because I just want you to hear this. So sources told Football Scoop this week the Wolverines had scouted SEC foes, including Georgia and Tennessee, as potential college ball playoff adversaries. Moreover, a source with direct knowledge, per sources, right, indicated to Football Scoop that Michigan may have attempted to assist the opposition of a potential college football playoff opponent in an effort to disrupt that team's potential path to the playoff. So that's where Tennessee fans are.
So what does that mean? What does that mean? You know,
and we don't even know for sure. We don't even know for sure that they're talking about Tennessee or what.
So I mean, it's just nonsense. It's like Tennessee complaining about the refs last week when they lost to Georgia. It was raining out. You know what I mean? It's like, my God, we just got to have an excuse these days for everything. You know, you got your ass kicked. That's what it was.
So what's the excuse for Tennessee then against Alabama last weekend? Since we're on the note of that,
the referees screwed them. I mean,
I saw Shane's thing. Was that a fair catch? I did see that. Yeah.
Now I'll give you that fair catch was a weird one, but again, that a missed call on a fair catch is not why got outscored 27-0 in the second half.
Right. So, Mike, we're going to get into the specifics, obviously, of this week and, of course, Gamecocks and Texas A&M. But let's start with the bigger picture. We enter, week 9 of the college football season, the SEC season. What's been the biggest surprise to you, both in the SEC East and the SEC West? Like, when you look at each of those divisions, what has surprised you the most at this point?
In the East, probably Kentucky, and they're just totally ineffective passing game. I thought they'd be, I was never a big Will Levis fan. I think I've said that on every show I've ever been on, but I figured we were upgrading there, and we have not, to put it kindly, with Liam Cohen back and Devin Leary. He's been a complete bust up to this point. Of course, I'm saying this. He'll probably score 5 touchdowns on the Vols on Saturday, just to curse me. And then out of the West, probably I bought into all the Jimbo hype once again. I guess that's not stunning because I think we all assume they'd be either really good or he's getting fired, and it looks like he's about to get fired. I've been calling it the decaying dynasty. Alabama keeps winning these damn close games. I'll retract that, because even though I had Arkansas fifth in the West, and a lot of people jumped on me. I'm a big Sam Pittman fan. But just the fact that their offense has been such garbage, and of course the big news, they fired their offensive coordinator, Dan Enos. All offseason, I thought, if they can just have a capable defense, they're going to be really good, because they got the best quarterback, I thought, probably the second best running back in the SEC. And with Sam Pittman, you just have blind faith that they're going to fix the offensive line. None of that has come to fruition, and they've been god-awful. They may be the worst team in the SEC right now, Arkansas. So I'd say Arkansas struggles, particularly on offense. That's been a huge surprise to me out of the West.
Michael Bratton of That SEC Podcast joining the show. You mentioned Jimbo Fisher, Mike. Let's go ahead and get into Gamecocks and Aggies. If Texas A&M loses this football game somehow, Jimbo's done, right? Like, buyout be damned, he's finished.
He should already be. They should have fired his ass last year. I don't know what in the hell they're doing, and they may bring him back. I don't know, but I think the fact that Texas looks like they're improving, they just landed another 5-star. I mean, you're going to get lapped by them when they come into the league. If you got Jimbo Fisher as your head coach, and I mean, he's no more than an expensive Kevin Sumlin. So I don't know what in the hell we're doing. I don't care if they beat the Gamecocks by 50 or lose by 50. He should be fired on Sunday, and they're just delaying the inevitable. But yeah, if South Carolina wins as a 2-touchdown underdog at Kyle Field, Yeah, Jimbo should be gone by Sunday. He should be. I don't think he will be, though. For whatever reason, they're clinging to him.
So you look at that game, Mike, South Carolina getting a 2-touchdown underdog. I think it's a lot of, when you get to this point in the season and you got two football teams, two programs that obviously are having disappointing seasons in regards to their standards or expectations they had in the preseason. I think a lot of it is like which team is more fired up to play and more wants to be there and is kind of more bought in and invested, what have you. And I'll ask you this on the South Carolina side, like how surprised are you that it's gotten to this point? Because I think, I listened to you guys in the preseason and we talked at media days. And I think you and I and cousin Shane were on pretty similar footing in the sense that this could be a step back for South Carolina because of the roster turnover and how good the rest of the league was and what have you. But even I didn't see it getting to this point, 2-5, staring 2-6 in the face. Like, have you even been surprised at how much South Carolina has slipped, or did you sort of see this coming because of all the pieces, the talent maybe they were missing coming in?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not overly surprised, to be honest with you. I was surprised they lost to Florida. I picked them to beat Florida. I thought that would be kind of the difference, and we don't have to rehash that terrible moment for your fan base. But, I think I picked South Carolina 5th in the East, and I picked Florida 6th. And now they're probably going to switch spaces because of that result. So, Spencer Rattler has surprised me. He's better. I put him famously 9th in the quarterback rankings, but a lot of that had to do with the fact that he lost his left tackle, and South Carolina is just not at a position right now where you can lose your stud left tackle. That's not going to be replaced. And I didn't realize it was going to be a catastrophe all around the left tackle as well. And then if you had told me that Juice Wells was going to largely be unavailable, I probably would have picked South Carolina 6 because he's that good of a player. And we saw that against Georgia. And people just need to go back. You referenced the Tennessee game from last year, Clemson from last year. Just turn on the tape, and you're missing that piece. South Carolina is not at a place where you can replace that guy. Now, they've done a hell of a job with Xavier Legette. Now he's banged up, but it's kind of sad. I mean, we can sit here and just think about what that offense could have been with your starting left tackle and both those receivers healthy all year long. Could have really surprised some people, but it didn't turn out that way. Now, did I think the defense will be this pathetic? No, I didn't think that. I've been surprised that, special teams has not been horrible, but they've been elite. So I was kind of anticipating that would continue, but it's certainly been disappointing. And I get people are kind of wondering, year 3 seems like we're taking a step back. What's this team going to look like without Spencer Rattler? I know everybody's fired up about Sellers, but and this is not to discredit him at all, because I don't want everyone to think that I'm just coming on here to just crap on the South Carolina Gamecocks. Well, we've all done this where Tennessee fans are living it. When Hendon Hooker goes, we'll be fine. We got Joe Milton. You ain't fine. You know what I mean? Jonathan Crompton. I remember people were fired up about him at Tennessee. He was awful. Yeah, and on and on and on. There's the guy that's not proven anything, but's looked good in a spring game or looked good against Furman. We get fired up and say the future's bright, and it could very well be, but he's not going to be Spencer Rattler. Not Spencer Rattler, what he is today. He's not going to be that tomorrow. Now, he may be that in 2 years, and if he is, we're going to be fine. But there's going to be a drop off at the game's most important position next year too. So, what does South Carolina look like? I don't know. I'm a little concerned, and I think also, Chris, something that's not being talked about enough, and no one knows the answer to this. So, this is not me calling out Beamer or anything, but a lot of these programs have made the decision to build through the transfer portal, and that's a blessing because then you exceed expectations right out the gate, but you're not developing. There's no guys in year 3 or 4 of your program that you brought in via the transfer portal years ago, and now we're stepping up. You essentially you're forcing yourself to do it through the portal every year, or you're hoping that these high school guys that have never done it can come onto the field and step up in the SEC. And again, this is not just a strict criticism of South Carolina. We're seeing it at LSU, where they have no defensive backs at all. This is DBU. We're seeing it at Arkansas, where they built through the portal, and now you miss a couple times in the portal. Now you got nothing. You know what I mean? So it's a dangerous game, but that's kind of the hand that South Carolina was dealt, and I think we're seeing some of that, particularly on the offensive line, with lack of development. And again, that's not just a South Carolina issue. Sam Pittman's having it at Arkansas, and he's the best offensive line coach in the country. So I don't know that there's an answer, but I don't think there's an easy fix to all this either.
Mike, admittedly, over the offseason, I would have told you that Shane Beamer was somewhat in untouchable status after the way year 2 ended, the way that the culture's been completely flipped since he's gotten there, the recruiting momentum, you name it, what have you, what he had done with Gamecocks football to that point. It's funny how a couple losses mount up, and really, I think starting, Mike, with that Tennessee game, that's when I saw the energy kind of start to shift. Then you lose that Florida game, which was the backbreaker. Then you go to Mizzou and just look completely unprepared and get dismantled. And there's real conversation, not saying it's the majority, but there's real conversation from a lot of Gamecock Nation about what is the future under Beamer? Is this guy Muschamp 2.0? Like, is he the long-term answer? What have you? And you and I both know, Mike, you don't get 6 or 7 or 8 years to figure it out and build. Like, you know, for big-time programs, if you don't have it going by year 3, you're probably going. And most other programs, if you don't have it going by, I'd say probably year 5, give or take, that's when you sort of know what you have. So have you been surprised by the commentary from Gamecock Nation about Shane Beamer and sort of the increased pressure? Or do you think that's it just kind of comes with the job, comes with the business that, I mean, you know, you don't have as long as you used to per se? Because admittedly for me, Mike, I think it's somewhat taken me by surprise how so many I saw over the offseason that you couldn't say one bad thing or one critical thing, I should say, about Shane Beamer without getting your head bit off. There's a lot of those people, Mike, that are leading the charge that, hey, Beamer's not the guy anymore. We got to look a different direction. It surprised me, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't think we should be surprised though either, because I'll go back to Sam Pittman. I mean, he's the Arkansas man. Mm-hmm. Now, majority of those fans want him gone. These Florida fans they're touting Billy Napier, they wanted his ass fired after Utah. They wanted his ass fired after Kentucky. That was about 3 weeks ago, Chris. You know what I mean?
And they'll want him fired if they lose like 4 of their last 5 or something. They'll
right.
want him fired. Yeah.
So we're just crazy down here. We're crazy for SEC. That's why guys like you and I have a show, because these fans are so great. They're so passionate. It just runs through their blood. But yeah, so I guess I'm not overly surprised, but I am surprised by this, Chris. You know, as you could clearly see by my setup and just my overall appearance, I'm no Josh Pate. You know what I mean? Like, I'm doing this out of a duplex in a little town in Tennessee. I'm not in a studio, but I always get a kick when Josh Pate does his show. Fantastic show. And he's always, you know, I got this coach texting me. I got this insight. I'm not that guy. They don't reach out to me very often, but I have been getting reached by some of these coaches, some of the people at some of these networks saying, what in the hell is wrong with Shane Beamer with his week after week antics and comments after these post games and breaking his foot and all this. So again, I say that not to like toot my horn, but it's like, I think it's all across college football right now. People are saying, what in the hell is up with this guy? And why does he keep doing this stuff? Why is he throwing his players under the bus? It's not a good look. Now, does that matter to South Carolina? Does it matter to the fans? Probably not, but it's not making him any friends, I would think. And that's going to make it harder for when you fire your defensive coordinator to bring in an elite coordinator. Who knows Dow Loggins? I don't even know how you grade that guy, because they can't block anybody. But what if they need to upgrade him? And I said this when Shane Beamer got hired, and these South Carolina fans jumped on my ass. But I said, I thought the point of getting Shane Beamer was this crazy Rolodex, and we're going to hire an elite staff because we don't have to pay him much because he's totally unproven. And he hires Marcus Satterfield, was best friend. The guy's awful. Hired Clayton White. I never heard of the guy. And again, Gamecock Nation, well, you're just stupid. You're an idiot. Well, they don't want him now either. You know what I mean? Like, so where are these great coaches I thought we were getting when we hired Shane Beamer? And that's not to say that, you know, he's a complete bust. I wouldn't fire him. I think aside from this year, I think he's done a hell of a job. I think entering this year, he's a top half SEC coach. You don't run him off because you have all these injuries. He got Pete Lembo. Let's not overlook everything. You know, I think Justin Stepp is one of the best receivers coaches in the who in the hell was touting Xavier Legette as a good player before this year? Who they were excited to get Juice Wells, but No South Carolina fan was like, yeah, we got Juice Wells, baby. No, they weren't doing that until they working with Justin Stepp. He developed those guys. You've got some elite coaches on your staff. So I'm not throwing out the whole thing. Hell, remember Florida tried to get Justin Stepp. He decided I'd rather coach with Shane Beamer than go down there with boring Billy down there in Gainesville. So there is a lot to sell. I realize no one cares about moral victories, and we got this coach and that coach, and we ain't winning on the field. But yeah, that's a long way of saying. I guess I'm not surprised by all the we got to get rid of Beamer, but I think that's crazy.
You mentioned Sam Pittman, Mike, and I'll go there because I think two somewhat similar situations. Like when I look at Arkansas and South Carolina and program expectations and history, what have you, and the way that Sam Pittman and Shane Beamer, they're just similar in the way that they're a fit for each of their respective schools. Pittman, obviously, with the move to fire Dan Enos. Your thoughts on Pittman's status in Fayetteville? And I'll ask you this. Which respective coach do you think outlasts the other at their school? Sam Pittman at Arkansas or Shane Beamer at South Carolina?
Oh, I think definitely Beamer at South Carolina because, I mean, if they don't win another game, Arkansas will fire Sam Pittman. Yeah. Now, I don't think they're going to lose it because they still got FIU. They got Auburn at home. They got Mizzou at home. I mean, that's a tough-ass game at Florida. So, I mean, there's many losable games there. But I think they're going to give Sam another opportunity. And I think they've made a scapegoat out of Dan Enos, which is a wise move, something that, Beamer, he kind of learned with Marcus Satterfield, no doubt. So we could blame it on that. But, I mean, if he comes back, and that is an if right now, I think he's certainly going to be on the hottest seat in the SEC. But, again, if he nails an offensive coordinator hire, I mean, he had the best coordinator duo in the SEC the last couple of years with Barry Odom and Kendall Browse. So he is a guy. Same thing with Shane Beamer. He's been around. He's got all these connections. People like to work for him, and he lets his coaches coach. So, but the problem with Arkansas, it's much like South Carolina, where these fans demand excellence, and it's just hard to do. Now, I think it's easier at South Carolina because you're closer to Georgia and Florida and Tennessee and North Carolina, where there's a lot of talent. Arkansas is kind of isolated up there, where their nearest recruiting base is Texas, and that's a good while away. So that's a tough-ass job, and people have won there before. So I'm not saying you can't win there, but that gets held against you. And I saw your interview with Marler. That guy's awesome. And the same thing you said, Steve Spurrier, set a standard at South Carolina that all these other coaches are judged by. Shane Beamer, he's no Steve Spurrier. And that's not disrespectful because Steve Spurrier's the top 5 SEC coach all time. You know what I mean? So, but that's the standard Beamer's held against. And it's hard for him to ever win 3 11-win seasons, nonetheless 3 in a row. I don't think that will ever happen.
Now, getting off of South Carolina, Mike, let's move to the Georgia Bulldogs. They begin life without Brock Bowers this weekend in the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. And obviously he's going to, miss the remainder of the regular season, 4 to 6 weeks, something like that. Can Georgia win it all still and even win the SEC? Can they win it all, though, without Brock Bowers on the offensive side?
I don't think so. And I don't even know if they can win it with him because they've not looked like the best team to me this year. Now, the one time they did was against Kentucky. They just destroyed them. But now all of a sudden, how good is Kentucky? You know what I mean? They got whooped at home. But I think Mizzou's really good too, but just absolutely dominated. We'll see what happens with this weekend, Tennessee at Kentucky. But, I mean, I don't want to completely dismiss Georgia, but I don't even think they have a playoff resume at this point in time. Now, they could get there because the next month is very tough schedule for them. Florida on a neutral field. They got Missouri and Ole Miss at home, and then at Tennessee. If they run through all them and kick all those teams' ass, I'll be changing my tune pretty quick because they're going to have to be doing it without Brock Bowers. So, but right now, no, I would answer no. I don't think they can win the national championship without Brock Bowers because I don't think, based on what I've seen from them this season, that they could win it with him.
Mike, what do you make of the SEC West race? We get to this point in the season and 3 teams are in it with Ole Miss, LSU, Alabama. It's funny how we spend all season, things change, but the more they change, the more they stay the same in the sense that the West is probably going to come down to LSU, Bama, and Tuscaloosa in just over a week and a half or so. But, I mean, what do you make of that? Could Ole Miss sneak in? I know LSU was your preseason national champion pick, and unfortunately that's probably not going to hit because I don't think they're going to get in as a 2-win or 2-loss, I should say, team. But what do you make of it? Because, again, Bama on a week-in, week-out basis, I mean, they're not winning in typical Bama fashion. They're not flashy. They're not running through people, but they're finding ways to win with Jalen Milroe and just enough in a running game. And the offensive line's terrible. Then you got LSU, who's got a historically great offense, but they can't stop anybody. And then, Ole Miss just kind of keeps on keeping on, quietly handling their business. Like, what do you make of the top of the West right now?
I just think it's going to be hilarious when LSU walks into Tuscaloosa and beats Alabama, but then loses to A&M in the season finale, and then Alabama wins the West. I mean, that's probably what's going to happen, some crazy like that. But, yeah, you reference Ole Miss. They're still in it, but they got to go to Georgia. They have to win that game. They need Alabama to lose twice in conference play. So I almost look at Ole Miss, and I don't even consider them a factor because I don't think Alabama's losing 2. Now, if they beat Georgia, Alabama's only got to lose 1. So, maybe you look at it like that. But, yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I've been calling for the decline of Alabama for about 10 years now. And this, I feel like I was the most accurate, just how awful they looked early in the season. They are getting better. Great defense. I've been impressed with Jalen Milroe. Each week seems to take strides to become a better and better quarterback. So it's going to be Alabama. I know it. They're going to win every game by 2 or 3 points, every critical one. And then, they'll march on to Atlanta and just get destroyed by Georgia in the SEC championship. And all those fans will be like, oh, we were right. We won the West. But I didn't realize that was the barometer there of success in Tuscaloosa is just getting just waxed by Georgia in the SEC championship. But so be it. If that's what they want to hang their hats on, that to me is a decaying dynasty. If all you care about is winning the SEC West, not winning an SEC, not winning a national championship, which I thought was the standard of a dynasty, but maybe they just meant an SEC West division dynasty.
Michael Bratton of That SEC Podcast. Mike, last thing before I let you go, how close are we to Nico time in Knoxville?
I don't know. They won't play him. I don't know what in the world's going on. I thought, remember when when all this NIL madness started, there was a lot of people that wondered, man, this could get sketchy. These guys start getting paid, and these boosters are going to demand guys play. It's almost like the exact opposite. Like Apple's like, you paid this guy? I ain't paying. I'm not going to play him. I have
$8 million quarterback, right? Or something.
I mean, he's not seen the field in a meaningful. I mean, I don't think I've seen him do anything other than hand the ball off. Now, that's about all Tennessee can do is run the ball. So why not play him? He can hand it off. He's an elite at handing the ball off, Chris. So I don't know what in the world they're doing. That's not to say that like Joe Milton, he's not been great, obviously, but I don't think he's certainly like last week against Alabama. That was his best game. And Tennessee fans are calling for him to be benched now after his best game. I guess because they lost the game, but they wouldn't have won that with Nico in there. I mean, that's kind of nonsensical, but I don't know that there's going to come a time because now the schedule ramps up with road trips to Kentucky, Mizzou. You really want to be starting a true freshman in these critical games, and then Georgia's coming to town. You got to start them against Georgia. The only one I could see is they got UConn at home and they got Vanderbilt at home. I think hopefully praying to God, maybe in Nico's NIL deal, it says don't play me my first year. I don't know, but those are the only games I think he'll see the field in any meaningful action. And given what Josh Heupel's shown us, I don't even know if that happens.
Michael Bratton, That SEC Podcast. They do a fantastic job. Mike, you and Cousin Shane keep up the great work. Cousin Shane's not locking in Carolina plus 14 as his lock of the week, is he?
He's not revealed. He'll reveal it tonight on the live show.
He's 1-0 in his last one, though, right? I mean, so he's kind of
1-0 and 2-11 on the year.
Hey, he's trying to go back to back. That's called a winning streak, right? A winning streak. So hopefully, Cousin Shane get on a winning streak. Mike, I appreciate you taking the time, man. It's always a pleasure. Let's definitely do it again soon.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you. Great stuff, guys. SEC Mike, a legend in his own right. Fantastic show with That SEC Podcast. He and Cousin Shane, they do a great job. Check out their show at That SEC Podcast. And, of course, he's SEC Mike, Michael Bratton on social media. Guys, that being said, we're going to jump into one final break. On the other side, we'll close out the show in style here on this Thursday. All that and more on the other side. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow. The Daily Crow is brought to you by our friends at Carolina Cigars. Carolina Cigars has been in operation since 2008, recently taken over by the Peterson family in 2020. Whether you're new to the cigar scene or whether you've been enjoying cigars your entire life, Carolina Cigars has the expertise and knowledge to make your visit to their shop enjoyable. Stop by for a fine cigar and experience their classic cigar lounge where people come together, share conversations, and become friends. So if you're into cigars and you're on Hilton Head Island, you really do need to go by and see them. They offer same-day shipping nationwide, free delivery island-wide for weddings and all special occasions. They're also proud to offer premium cigars at 9 outside humidor locations around Hilton Head Island, and they have special events throughout the year as well. They want to talk to you. They want to engage. They want to share with you their cigar selection they're very proud of and their beautiful cigar lounge. When you're in the Low Country, there's only one place for cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, and there's only one place I get my cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, Hilton Head Island's premier cigar merchant. Come and share your passion. It's all here at Carolina Cigars. Give them a follow on Instagram at Carolina_cigars, or give them a call today at 843-681-8600. That's 843-681-8600. Smoke them if you got them, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya. The Daily Crow is also brought to you by our friends over at A1 Air Quality Consultants. Headaches, coughing, running nose while in the office or just in your home, call A1 Air Quality Consultants to have your air checked today. From Columbia to Asheville, Anderson to Charlotte, they are your breath of fresh air for all of your air quality needs. Be sure to give them a call or shoot them a text today at 864-619-2092. That's 864-619-2092. You can also contact them via email at a1airqualityconsultants@gmail.com. Be sure to check them out. We thank A1 Air Quality Consultants for their love and support of the Spurs Up Show, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya.
Michael Dougie, ho.
Ladies and gents, boys and girls, we are back here on this Thursday, October the 26th, 2023. 9 minutes to go on the show, guys. We're going to take a couple of questions. We do have a voicemail to get into. I do apologize that we don't have our full normal daily mailbag segment, but definitely wanted to get SEC Mike on the show, and want to say thank you again to SEC Mike. A fantastic show, fantastic job by SEC Mike. Let's see. We got back-to-back voicemails here, so let's get into these. I want to hear what this guy has to say.
Hey, what's up, Chris? Been a Gamecock fan for a long time, man. This weekend, me and my dad, gonna sit down and have a few beers and just try to, as Shane Beamer would say, find some joy. We've both seen the Gamecocks upset some people, even when they shouldn't have had a chance. So we're hoping that my dad and I, we hate Jimbo Fisher, man, and it's a respectful hate, but he's probably a great person, but we want to see him get his ass kicked every time he goes out on the field. And we're hoping the Gamecocks will send him packing, man. So we're hoping for the best this weekend, and hope everyone else enjoys the game. It's gonna be great if we can get out there and really take care. I don't know what to say, man. It's gonna be a tough game, but.
Let's see. I think his voicemail got cut short. Here we go.
Hey, what's up, Chris? I just called in. Had to cut my message short. Help a lady out at the store real quick. Anyways, yeah, Dad and I are going to watch the game this weekend. We know our backs are against the wall, but we're hoping for a miracle, man. We sat down and watched them unfold plenty of times when the Gamecocks didn't have a chance in hell. So we're hoping this is one of those times, man. I hope all the Gamecock fans out there can stay positive, man. We're going to bounce back. Shane Beamer, he's learning on the go, man, and I'm glad he's our coach. I think he's going to get it done. We may not ever be national championships in this finger in South Carolina, but I think we're going to be competitive. And SEC's tough. It's extremely tough. So hopefully everything works out this weekend, and Dad and I can drink a beer and maybe look back and say, remember when the Gamecocks kicked their ass and they didn't have a chance? And like I said, we both hate Jimbo Fisher, and it would be so nice to see him have to pack the U-Haul after the Gamecocks leave town. And it's a respectful hate, by the way. He's a good coach, but he's easy to dislike.
All right. I appreciate the voicemail, man. Yeah, listen, hopefully South Carolina can help us all find some joy and get an improbable W again, guys. I just, after last week where I drank the Kool-Aid for whatever reason, I can't do it again. I can't in good conscience do that again. This team is what it is. They're just not a very good football team, and that's fine, but that's the reality, and it's one that we just have to accept. Let's see. Bruin Nation, we'll get back into your questions, guys, as we close out the show. If we're out of bowl game, let him play and let Rattler get ready for the draft. Just don't burn his red shirt. Bruce Sellers needs to play against Jacksonville State and Vandy, needs experience, can't start him going into next year without any game time experience. I wonder how upset people like Bruin Nation and others are going to be when we have the quarterback battle next year and Luke Doty is named the starter going into the season. Oh, you think the Shane Beamer heat is bad now? Boy, just wait. Bruin Nation's going to jump on board with that. Just wait. Just imagine. Just imagine. Let's see. Jacob says, I can already see the post in the offseason. Top coaches on the hot seat. It'll be Beamer and Pittman. Yeah, it's unfortunate. Big wash. It's one bad season. Everything will be back on track next season. He's not the same guy as Muschamp. I mean, I would agree. Robbie Davis. If we can somehow, like I said last year, get to go to the NIT tournament on a regular basis, I believe at some point we'll have the right players at every position, and we'll make the NCAA tournament. Drewski says, I'm a Georgia fan, but for some reason I always root for the Gamecocks when they're playing anybody but Georgia. Appreciate that. Let's see. Nation says, bro, I've thought of that. Hunter Kelly, if Doty starts, I'm not even going to watch the whole season, LOL. And Hunter Kelly, and Hunter, love you, Hunter, but you were literally one of those this summer that was saying 10-2, 11-1. Like, you really were. So I can only imagine where you are right now with this football team. Toka says, if we start Luke Doty next year, I'm not watching college football anymore. Nation, and I'm telling you, I'd if he names Doty over Sellers because of loyalty, fire his ass on the spot. Oh, God. Ain't it funny how quickly it changes? Ain't it funny how quickly it changes? Anyways, guys, just 2 minutes to go. Appreciate you all tuning in. Thank you all so much for the love and support, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in this morning. Obviously, I know changing it up. We'll be live again tomorrow, 9 to 11 a.m. So I want to hear from each and every single one of you guys, taking your questions, your comments, your voicemails. It'll be our Friday mailbag episode. And then we'll have 3 guests, guys, back to back to back, with Mark Ryan at 9:45, Jake Crane at 10:15, and then our good friend David Nuno of Tex Aggs, I'd probably say around 10:45 or so. Show will probably run until about 11:15 tomorrow, something like that. So going to be an awesome day. A lot of fun. Guys, I'll be on Inside the Gamecocks at 11:30 this morning. So in just over 30 minutes, I'll be on there. And, outside of that, content bleeding out of the eyeballs. So let's see. Big Wash, redshirting Sellers is the best thing for our program and for him also. I think so. I mean, you have Spencer Rattler. Why would you play a lot of Sellers? But I think against Jacksonville State and Vandy, you'd like to see you'd like to see Sellers in there. You would. You definitely would like to see him get some experience. Let's see. Travis says, I'd be surprised if we see Juice in the garnet and black. At this point, man, I would be too. I would be somewhat. Austin Gregory, I can't even lie. College Station has to be hands down the coolest name for a college town. Yeah, it is cool. I think that is a cool name. So, Twisted Rooster, bring on Nike 2024, and we really need to take a look at training and nutrition. All I heard in the offseason, how much stronger and faster we are. It's not transitioning to the field. Let's see. Justin didn't want to burn his red shirt for a losing team. Not mad nor blame him. Justin, that's such a slapdick loser mentality. It's such a, bro, imagine being a freshman. This whole Xavier McLeod thing, right? I'll just say this. Imagine being a freshman. You're getting an opportunity to play, right? At Missouri. They want you to go. And you say no because, well, we're a losing team. Well, do something that helps them not be a losing team. Like, what happened to big team little me? What happened to we above me? I know we're in the NIL era, guys, and transfer portal, but like, what happened to being a team guy? What happened to that? I just, South Carolina is better off without having a guy like that in their locker room. Just flat out. Guys, that being said, we're going to go ahead and close this thing out. Appreciate you all tuning in. Be sure you hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Hit that bell icon so you get notifications of when we drop new video content, when we go live as well. Also, guys, of course, podcast drops every single day at 5 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. So be sure you subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. And outside of that, guys, stay tuned to social media content bleeding out of the eyeballs. Also, check me out on Inside the Gamecocks at 11:30. And again, just stay tuned to all of the content. Appreciate you guys greatly. Thank you all so much for rocking with us this morning. We're live again tomorrow, 9 to 11. This won't be a permanent thing. It's just a we're out of town thing, and this works best for the schedule. So, guys, appreciate you all tuning in. Thank you all so much. Have a great rest of your Thursday, and we will talk to you all tomorrow.